Hey, it's Tori, and welcome back to my channel. Today we welcome the lovely Lindsay Rose from Primrose to the channel. How are you doing today, Lindsay? I know it's super late over there, so I appreciate you taking the time out to be here and to chat with me.
No, thank you. It's exciting for me to be here, so I'm happy to stay up till midnight.
So, Primrose Path, could you tell us in your own words, like what the band represents and what it means for you guys?
Yeah, so Primrose Path actually started, Brenton, the bald one in the band, is probably the best way to identify him, is my brother-in-law. And our original guitarist, Matt, is his stepbrother. So they'd been jamming together for a long time. I moved to Western Australia and just kind of injected myself into their little jam session. And within weeks, I think we just knew that we made great music together. I think Brenton and I were kind of always meant to work together, even though we didn't really know each other prior to me moving here. And so, in a funny way, Primrose Path is very family oriented because, Brent and I see each other as siblings, and Scott, who joined us on bass, is like another brother, and Taz on guitar is like another brother. So we kind of have this really like family kind of vibe about the band, which many people probably don't see. But for us, it's very like loving and affectionate and stupid and goofy, and we fight like siblings, but like in a good way. But it was about catharsis, I think. Like a lot of us had, difficult lives in many respects, either because of mental health or social things, or, I think all of us are a little bit on the spectrum and a little bit
Mm-hmm.
ADHD and a little bit odd. And so we had this real familiarity that meant that we wanted to sort of cultivate a space that was cathartic for us, but also when we digest music or when we consume music, it's, like you feel it, it's immersive, you know what it's like, it crawls within you, and that can be life changing. And I suppose we wanted to hopefully give that back to like a new generation of people who needed some music. So it is in a funny way, in a very daggy but cool way, a very affectionate and very dorky bunch of people just trying to write some cathartic jams and have a bit of fun.
Yeah,
So
from what I've heard from you guys, you definitely do put that out there. Like every single single that I've listened to and that I have checked out on the channel has been that, and you can feel that emotion. And while you say you can't necessarily feel that family thing from a music video because it's different, but I'm sure when people come and see you live and they get to chat and see you guys together, then they feel that. And I think it's great that you guys are like, you become this little like tight-knit family, because that's what it's about. That's what this making music thing is about, and it doesn't work if you're not close that way.
oh, I agree. I think you form such unique bonds in a band. Like I've played in many bands over my life. And when I, like I said, injected myself into Brenton and Matt's little outfit, um, I had come off the back of a whole other career. I'd actually left music for some time. And you know, I had forgotten um just how personal and connected you kind of become to your bandies. Like you read each other's minds, like when we're jamming out songs and we're writing it, I can kind of tell what Brenton's about to do, and they kind of know what I'm about to do, even though we haven't necessarily spoken about it. And there's this beautiful synergy in how it all operates. And I suppose that helps us with the fluidity of the music, because quite often we'll have very different chunks of sounding things in a single song.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy, I think, when you're writing progressive music, to make that all tie in. Like some artists are absolute gods at it. like Steve Wilson, Opeth, like Leonard Cohen, if you're into that. They were absolute masters at that. And I think a part of that obviously came from just either working as a solo person or working with people
Hmm.
who were just kind of moving in the same way as each other. And I'm so blessed and grateful that I got to know Brenton and we found each other. Because yeah, we're on opposite sides of Australia. Like he's my husband's brother. And we were 4,000 kilometers away or something. I don't know what that is in miles. I don't know how that works. But we yeah, we just didn't know who each other was, and then we just met, and then everything just worked. And I think that has added to our songwriting because we just have this synergy in how we all operate together. And finding Taz as our sort of permanent second guitarist last year was an additional sort of blessing on the band because he's this you just don't expect in Western Australia, being like the most isolated city. I think
Yeah.
it's the most isolated city in the world, but certainly in the Southern Hemisphere. You don't expect to find these people that are just like, oh, we're just meant to be together. But we have. And at the moment we have Ash from Voyager filling in on drums for us because we don't have a permanent drummer. And like just playing with someone that skilled just makes you immediately elevate. Like you're just like, holy moly, this is this is a whole new experience. Like even for us live, just the confidence we feel with him behind us, and his extraordinary talent and drive, means that we get to have a lot of fun on stage because we're not
Hmm.
worried. We're just like,
Right.
we just know the pulse of the band is moving exactly as it should. And yeah, it's been great. Like the last show we did was so much fun, and it's exciting because we're seeing more often people singing along. And like a few times I get a bit teary because I'm like, oh my God, someone's singing something we wrote. And then I'm like, no way, I'm a rock star. I've got to be cool. Like, no, I'm never gonna be that guy. I'm always gonna be a dork about it. Like it's really it's actually kind of overwhelming, and especially in like the crescendo and obstruct
Hmm.
with that big vocal part like that. I can feel the energy change in a room when we do parts like that in songs. And getting to share that with other people, because these are ideas we have in our head that we ventilate in the jam room, and then when you see it come to life in reality, in space shared with other people, for that moment everyone is connected, like we're all a part of it. And I remember going and seeing bands like Tool and having that exact experience, and I never thought that I as an artist could emulate that. But it's exciting to see that starting to happen, and very humbling. But also, like I said, I get really emotional. I'm like, oh my God, people see. Like, oh no,
No,
I have to actually do my job.
right. It's I can't imagine it. I can't imagine being up on that stage and like looking out at the crowd and then like seeing them sing these lyrics that you guys have written from your heart and your soul, and you put that out into the world, and yet they're singing it back at you because like you say, there is absolutely nothing like being in that atmosphere of a live show and with the people that enjoy the same music because they're there to see this particular artist. And there's just something about it that nothing, even just watching a live show on YouTube, it's not the same. Like it's I don't know. It's just one of life's things that just happens, and you're in that moment, and nothing can ever reciprocate that unless you're there, physically there.
I agree. And I think like it's kind of terrifying. Like on the one hand, I think digital media is insanely exciting. But it's also terrifying because I think
Yeah.
people are consuming art more and more online. And, we're seeing the erosion of music festivals in Australia really badly. I know that's kind of happening everywhere. And it's getting harder and harder to get people in live music venues. And there's a plethora of reasons for that, from people just not having as much money to like Australia taxes the absolute living daylights out of alcohol. So most people can't afford to even get a beer anymore at a pub.
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess I feel very dutiful, and I know the guys are the same about like creating a product, if I can call it that, that just encourages people to be present. Because I think now more than ever in history, as we are, ironically, I'm talking about this online. Um, the irony of that's not lost on me. But I think more than ever we need human connection. Because we have higher rates of mental illness, we have higher rates of narcissism, we have, all of these issues going on for humanity at the moment. And the one thing that is consistently studied is having a society, having a tribe is so protective. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the metal industry in particular is that they are tribes of people. You find your kin in those spaces. And, we wanted to, I suppose, foster that. It was very important to us because it was life changing and life saving for us, throughout periods of our lives. And, like I'm blown away by bands like Sleep Token. They have put back in stadiums
Mhm.
alternative music that has like a sort of spiritual kind of connectivity to it that everyone, like when I saw Sleep Token the first time a couple of years ago, I was just like, what am I watching? I am
Right.
obsessed now.
Yeah.
um, like I just think those types of bands are more important than ever. And creating those kinds of spaces for people are more important than ever. And, I hope that we can have a positive impact. We have big aspirations that are not like ego driven, just I think we all got to a point in our lives where we're like, this is actually what matters to us. Art is what matters to us. And also humanity matters to us. So how can we, like I'm a lawyer in my day job. I'm very
Mhm.
lucky. I get to work with people all the time and help them. Although I think Americans might question that. I've heard heard all of the American jokes about lawyers. I'm like, I'm actually a barrister, so please don't hold it against me. But I'm very lucky that I get to work in social justice because I'm a criminal defense barrister.
Mhm.
And so like I know the difference you can make to a person's life. But when I think about the biggest impact on my life, it was always music.
Yeah.
Music mattered more than anything.
Yeah.
So we're working toward I hope being able to be a positive contribution to that space. So we'll see. AI is slowly taking over, so who knows?
Yeah, and like you say, like I mean, I am so thankful for the world we do live in today, technology wise, but also like I do see obviously the negative effects of that because that then enables those people to then become brave and then like the narcissist she was talking about, and especially being people who do create content like you with your band and me with the channel, of course, it allows people to sit behind their screens and to type these really horrible messages, and
Mm,
it's like, why? I've never understood that. I've never understood why somebody would take that time to put that negative energy out to somebody else they don't even know, and they
mm,
probably will never know them because they've just clicked on this video from maybe like a recommendation YouTube has thrown at them, and they don't take the time to really delve into who you are. They just see that split couple of minutes from a song or from a video, and then they make a comment, and it's like, why? Right?
why? I must admit, like I found that really challenging at first.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I know people always talk about it. Like I guess I'd never been confronted with that. Like I'd always been one of the boys.
Hmm.
My husband was in the army for a really long time, so all of our mates were like ex-combat servicemen, and like they're all lads. But believe it or not, they're very respectful, and
Right.
you're just kind of one of them. And it wasn't until we started putting ourselves out there online that I sort of, particularly as a woman, started to sort of experience, the real nastiness that exists online. I think I'd been really immune from that. I never had a real social media presence prior to us putting the band together. I had like my work colleagues and my mom and my family
Hmm.
and stuff, but I'd never created content before. And I have to say, I really take my hat off to people who make careers out of content creation. And I think that as we're moving toward more of a sort of fan-based economy, because streaming has just like eroded money from music, and there's more of a reliance on bands to sort of put a face to it that's more personal, that is more, I suppose, content oriented, that isn't necessarily musical, but about you. Um, it's been a challenge for me because like I'm a fairly gregarious personality. I think, particularly as a lawyer, you kind of have to be happy to chat to people, but um, I'm sort of inherently extremely self-conscious. I remember when my mom, like, she's going to die about like me talking about it, but I remember when my mom I started the Lindsay Rose page, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, this is so narcissistic." And I was like, it's not. It's business. Like, this is
Right.
business. But also, I said, Mom, this is freaking terrifying. Like, some people might really enjoy it. I don't dislike it because I really love talking to people, and we get, for the most part, really lovely feedback, and we get to meet really interesting people all over the world. But it's scary. And I
Hmm.
think every time I post that photo or I post that video, I'm there is a huge part of me that's always second guessing. And it's weird because if you put me on stage, I will throw myself around, I will crawl on the floor. Like, oh God, the things we do on stage. um, I don't even think twice about. I don't worry if I look skinny. I don't care if my makeup sweat off my face. Like, in that space, it's so safe, but as
Hmm.
soon as you're online, it's a whole different experience for exactly what you've said. People are just, um, you know, they have an air of bravery about them that who ordinarily in society would probably never say anything,
Right.
but now they have a platform. So that's been a real learning curve for me, I have to say. Like, writing music, I could do all day, every day, and I'll probably never stop. I'll be like 100 years old trying to sing Irrelevance, but although Lord help me, um, but that's a beast of a song to sing. But
Mm.
I find this whole new way of doing things, yeah, really really quite intimidating, but I'm learning to enjoy it. So, but yeah, I really have a whole newfound respect for people like yourself and people who have been doing this for a long time, because I think it must take a stoicism that I am sort of yet to properly find in myself. So it's, yeah, quite incredible, but also terrifying.
Yeah, it is. It's scary. I have definitely have to. Well, I've had to like grow a thicker skin for it because I am a sensitive person. I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and I mean, you probably see that. I mean, I put everything of me into a reaction. It doesn't matter what band it is, how many subscribers you have, whatever. I'm here for the music, and I'm here to maybe help, bands like yourself get pushed forward a little bit. And if that's to one or two people, that's my job done at the end of the day. I don't care. I've never cared about views. I've never been about views, and I don't look at the analytics of my channel whatsoever, because if I did that, it would just take over and then that would become something else. And I just don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to take away from the music itself. And I go back now. I've been doing this like four years, and I go back to like my first ever videos. I'm like, oh my god, it's so cringy.
No, I know. I totally know what that's like. So Primrose hasn't been around very long. Like, we only started properly, I guess, in
Hmm.
2021, which and we pumped out our first EP that we'd recorded ourselves. And every time we go back and listen to the EP, and we did a single called Down and Out, and we hated the mix of it. But we just, to be honest, we put it out because we wanted our friends and family to see it. Like, we didn't really think, oh, maybe
Yeah.
in 5 years someone might be taking this seriously. And every time we go back and listen to it, we're like, oh God, like, what were we thinking? We will one day. We've kind of left it on there as a bit of a joke to us, but I think one day we'll properly re-record the song so that anytime someone looks up our music, they're not like, what the far out is this? Like, what?
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a professional band, and it dead set sounds like something someone's recorded at home. Like, but we also have always tried to be very authentic, like you. So we're not like pretending that we're not on a growth
Right.
spurt, I suppose. Like we can't I wish we had the money to just start out with $30,000 singles or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
But we don't. And we're like fully self-funded. All of us have full-time jobs. We're trying to sort of trying to do music videos for singles, to make sure the singles are recorded to what we would consider a good enough standard internationally to be sort of competitive in that space. But also we want people to enjoy listening to it. And the progressive scene in particular tend to be full of other technical musicians and sound engineers. And so, you also have to be mindful that you are putting out something that people are going to just genuinely enjoy. They're not going to be like, oh, this is a great song, but the mix is garbage. And so we've had to do things in a really piecemeal way. But yeah, we've kind of left out and out on there. We will re-record it one day, but for the moment it's just like, hey, like, please don't put that song on. It's just off. And the vocals, like, so we don't use a lot of auto tuning and stuff on the vocals.
Hmm.
Like we try to keep it like there's always a bit, like especially with the harmonies, because it's really important they're just locked in. But we try to keep a bit of room. We like to have it a bit more organic because like I'm a grunge head at heart, I'm grew up listening to Chris Cornell and sort of Stone Temple Pilots and Lane Staley, and there was always a real sort of dissonance to their vocals, and I kind of like having little bits of that in mine, even though in contemporary music that's like a bit of a taboo. But we don't do a lot of those things, and this song Down and Out, this guy has just ramped up the auto tuning and it's like, oh my god, it's so bad. But again, we like to have a sense of humor, so we've just kind of left it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
It's
people run
it's
into it, we're sorry.
well, and it's also a good thing to look back and to see where you guys started and compare that to where you are now, which that's what I like to do with my channel too. Like I leave all those old videos up because I have grown, and I have grown in confidence as well, because I am a naturally quiet person, and it's taken a lot for me to do these interviews and then to even set out and do them in real life with the person right next to me. That's a whole nother level for me. But that also leads me perfectly onto the next question I had for you, which was like, how would you personally describe Primrose Path's sound to somebody who may not have heard you guys before?
We get asked this a lot, and I have to say none of us know how to properly answer it.
That's fair.
I would I would say we're a fusion of um sort of progressive grunge metal.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's a genre.
With like
Um
ethereal vocals, I'd say as well.
yeah, like some of the new stuff coming out has like black metal sections in it.
Hmm.
It's very hard. I don't quite know the word for us. When we first got seen live, I think it was not first got seen, but it was like either our first or second show. Someone said to us that we sounded like avant-garde psychedelic space witch metal, and we really loved that.
Yeah.
Because we were like, I can kind of see it. But I think as we've sort of got heavier, because back then we weren't playing as much, well, the music just didn't have as many metal elements to it. And that was really because at the time, our drummer, who we love dearly, was just not a metal drummer. And so
Hmm.
we were writing heavy parts to the music, but they weren't coming out because it didn't have the sort of pulse that it needed.
Right.
And he moved on, and then as we sort of incorporated metal drumming into the music, I feel like we kind of moved away from the more psychedelic stuff. I still think we have a bit of the space witch metal, but there is a real grunginess to our music, and I think it's because we're all people that grew up in the 90s. not willing to admit how old I am. It's actually my birthday today. But we grew up in the 90s, and so there is a hint of that. Well, I'd say there's probably more than a hint of that. I'd say there's quite a lot of that. But we do like gent, for example, like gent riffing. We all love Tesseract. Is like, I'm so excited I get to see Tesseract do May. I'm just like, Opeth was another huge influence. So it's sort of, you've got on opposite ends of the spectrum progressive music with Opeth and Tesseract. And I suppose we're trying to somehow fuse these sounds together, but then having very 90s like belted female vocals. you know, I think people are going to really like what's coming because there's a lot more screaming in it. I kind of saved the best for last with our vocal releases, but it's unusual, I think, in the metal space to have a woman, especially because I'm sort of like an alto vocalist. I'm actually I prefer singing low, and I think in most although I constantly find myself singing soprano stuff in our music, and I'm like, why did I write that?
Yeah, because now you have to perform that live too.
I know. So when I wrote Irrelevance, it was in my head. I was like, this is going to sound great. It took me 2 weeks to work out how to sing it. Like because I'm not a soprano vocalist, but I knew that it had to be up there. And that is one of the awesome things about our music is we are constantly learning new skills. We are constantly going, oh, this is going to sound fantastic. And then we realize none of us can play it. So now we've got to suddenly work out how to do it. And that's a huge part of the enjoyment of us working together, is constantly challenging each other to kind of come up with new and innovative ways to do things that are actually familiar to people. So it's like we want the music to have a sense of nostalgia when they hear it. Like, oh, this reminds me of, like, for example, Irrelevance. I love the song. It's become my most favorite to perform, even though it was one of the hardest initially. To me, it sounds like if the Cranberries had a baby with Meshuggah. And it's like that just doesn't make any sense. Like how can these two but it worked, and I think like a lot of our music pays homage to other artists like that. But that in and of itself makes it very complicated. Like we often refer to it as sneaky prog because it sounds super accessible until you try to play it. And like for me vocally, every song poses its own new challenges. I pride myself on being a very good live vocalist. I don't consider myself a very good studio vocalist because a lot of the power in my vocals has come from the sort of energy of performing live. And that's because I've always performed live. So Primrose Path was the first band that I've ever really stood in a studio and recorded stuff with. And so like it was challenging for me to somehow create in the sort of sterile environment of a music studio something that for me was a really emotional I suppose exploration of sound, because there's parts of our songs that like I kind of embody the emotion of it as I perform it, or I might move my body in a particular way that helps push something out to sound a certain way. And it was really challenging standing in front of a microphone, just like yeah, it's been a constant learning curve. And I think what's to come is, we're back in the studio in May to do a single. So we do have the album coming out at the end of the year, but we had to delay recording it just because of finances. Like it is expensive. And this song we've got coming out is like, I'm not going to give any of it away, but it is, it's cool. I think people will be really surprised because it's coming back from Obstruct, which was this beautiful, elegant kind of piece of music, to what we've got coming is going to be quite a juxtaposition. So I think people will enjoy it. It's still beautifully melodic and it sort of has that Primrose elegance I think we kind of have in it. But it's also filthy. So I think it'll be good.
I'm very curious now. I'm so curious and excited.
I wish I knew. Oh no, we're excited. Like we're sort of like giddy about it. We had a band meeting tonight. We're all like,
yeah.
but I wish I knew how to describe the sound. I think, when you're trying to do something innovative, it sometimes requires new language.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we haven't quite worked out what that language is yet. Like I do think it's progressive grunge metal would probably be the three words I would use to describe it most
Yeah.
accurately.
Yeah. When you were saying how the energy of the crowd takes over and that becomes part of your performance, and then, it's going from that and into the studio setting where you don't have that, yet what you have recorded or what I have heard, you did it. You put that emotion in there and you can feel that. And I know it's a learning curve, but like everything I've heard so far, I've had it on my playlist ever since like I reacted to it, and I love hearing
That's
your
incredible.
vocals, and I love hearing your range and the diversity within the music itself, and it's great that you guys don't necessarily just stick to like one or two things. Like you're all over the place, yet you still have a very uh it sounds like Primrose Path. Like you still have a very unique sound, and it still all comes together as Primrose Path, yet you still have all that diversity within the band as
Mm.
well.
It's one of the things that I don't think we've done as well yet, because like we're still finessing all of this. But it's
Right.
one of the things that I've always loved about Sleep Token, Opeth, Devin Townsend, like as controversial as this might sound, Avenged Sevenfold. I'm
Mm-hmm.
unapologetically an enormous Avenged Sevenfold fan. And despite what anyone says, I think The Stage was their best album. But one of the things I always loved about those artists, and there's so many others as well, is that they could play with music. Like they didn't have to just keep replicating the same sound over and over and over. And look, the bands like Tool, where the fact that they're using repetition in their sound formulates a part of their whole identity. I love that. I'm unapologetically an enormous Tool fan as well. But I think for us who enjoy playing with the music as a craft, it would be really hard. Oh, and also because the music's really emotional. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like Brenton might send something, and he might be in a feral mood, and
Mm-hmm.
he'll send this like, really dark piece of music. And I'll just be like, I love this. I love this so much. And so, and then he might be in a really happy mood and he'll send these like really major key sort of things. And I'm like, Brenton, I hate this. This is far too happy. Like I
Right.
can't, and then other times I'll write things that are like really poppy, because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big fan of like Lady Gaga, and I listen to like a lot of a lot of EDM actually,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like trance music and stuff.
Me too.
And I really love, yeah, good. I really love like the hook writing for vocals in that style of music is really clever. And like, so Brenton might send me this really dark, like he's in the worst place of his life kind of music. And then I'm just like, hey, this ridiculously upbeat chorus is going to sound fantastic over this. And it sort of ends up this weird dichotomy in the music writing, but it's sort of, I don't know, it kind of works, but it's so emotional that I think if we were to try to have like one particular sound, or like one particular thing that is there's like great continuity in, we would struggle, just because as people we are not like that. Like we
Mm-hmm.
are, very broad in our range of emotions and very broad in our range of experiences in the world. And I I guess we have just accidentally, because I'm really thinking about this on my feet now, but I think that's why the music tends to be very dynamic, because it sort of reflects how dynamic we are as people, and um, which is a polite way to just say we're a band of really moody people. But I would struggle. It's one of the things I've never understood about. There's certain genres that I don't really listen to, like death metal, for example, and this, I'm sure death metal musicians will completely disagree with me, but as someone who isn't very familiar with the music or the style of music, to me, a lot of it sounds very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the reasons why I never gravitated toward that was my experience of it. It just didn't have the ebbs and flows that I like to experience in music. And so it's no surprise then, I suppose, that the band that we end up sort of formulating also doesn't have a specific sound. But it's really beautiful to hear that we do have a Primrose sound,
Mm-hmm.
because we kind of don't really know what that is yet. Brenton and I think with his lead guitar work and my vocals is really unique. Like we often have lead guitar doing either harmonizing or in fact just singing identical notes, and it is to the absolute horror of our engineer Matt Templeman, because he's like, "What? You're singing the exact same frequency. You're going to cancel each other out." And we're like, "Well,
No,
that's the
no,
point."
right. I love that. No, I love
Yeah.
when vocalists and they go up against the same rhythm or the same like tempo or whatever of the
Mm,
guitar. There's just something about it that I
mm.
absolutely adore, and I love that you guys do that.
Yeah, it's fun. Like it's accidental. Like
Right.
Brent and I never set out to do that, but because we jam a lot of stuff, and he'll just like, "Eh," and then I'm like, nah, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, and then we can sometimes, especially because jam rooms are small, we can hear our like his guitar and my vocals like almost phasing each other out.
Mm-hmm.
And live, that is almost distressing. Like that
Right.
chorus in Irrelevance live is actually like haunting, because it's just not right that the lead vocals and the lead guitar playing the exact same note, and they're sort of piercing the room, and there's this real discomfort about it, but that also makes it so exciting in a live space. And so when we've written songs, it's really been written for the live consumption of it. It's been hard to then get, I suppose, in a recording, the same kind of feel. But I think Matthew Templeman, since we've started working with him, um, he gets it, like he understands that. Well, so he's not always happy with Brenton and I's arrangements of the vocals and guitar, but I think he gets it. Like we're okay with things being a little uncomfortable, because that might actually be very purposeful. Um, but we have fun. Like it's fun when he does weird guitar bends and live. I'll just like start copying what he's doing. I don't know. It's weird, but I guess yeah, it's weird, but it's strangely enjoyable. And people are really receptive to our live shows. I think uh I'm always blown away by it. Because our crowds just keep getting bigger, and we can't go to local venues now in the metal scene without being known. Like
Mm-hmm.
and I never expected that, given we were just in a pool shed a couple of years ago,
Right.
um, just a three siblings, having a
Yeah.
jam. But I think there is something so unique about, not unique about our live show, but there is something so unique about live shows that are audience oriented, or kind of like music and audience oriented. And I, like I said earlier, I just think there's a real, people are yearning for connection, and I'm sensing that's something that we, as we finesse and learn more about what we're doing, I suspect that's something that I think we should be able to positively contribute. But we are still working it all out. We're
Yeah.
we haven't even done a whole album yet, so we're very much in our infancy as well. Albeit none of us will ever admit to anyone how old we are. But you know, we are still working it out. So hopefully, our goal is to get overseas in 2025. So we're uh, in the works of organizing a band manager, which is really
Mm-hmm.
exciting. Makes everything seem so real. um, and we're looking at sort of contacting labels soon, and because our market is not in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And bands like Carnival, I don't know how they just right time, they just put out the sound that was so perfect for its era. Um, but the music scene is so small compared to what it used to be in terms of like attendance. So I think it's hard now to be able to sort of do the types of things they did in the early 2000s. So our goal is to get overseas next year, and that's why we're fighting so hard to get singles out and get the album done. And we're like selling instruments and cars and all kinds of things to make it possible. Because yeah, we're dying to be there and we're dying to share it with people who want to hear it. And sadly, the Australian prog scene is very small now. It's not like it used to
Hmm.
be. So we're sort of hoping very, very hard to play in America to get working visas, but we're sort of hoping to do Europe next year to begin with anyway. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah, because anytime you guys post on social media with like your shows and like I can physically see how, even just from photos, how every single member gets into the music that is being played. And like I said, I think I said in a reaction or I said it on social media somewhere, I said it that I'm jealous of the people that get to see you now and get to hear you now. And because I am in the US and I do know how difficult it is. I mean, I went to see a band last week and two of their members couldn't be with them because they're still waiting on their visas. And it happened to another band as well that was coming from England. The whole band, their visas didn't turn up for like 2 weeks after the tour had started. And it's crazy. It blows my mind that the struggle, but I also know it from a personal perspective as well, because obviously I'm not an American citizen yet. I am only a green card holder, which makes me a legal alien. And so I know like how long it takes to get your paperwork. I mean, so how they work is you got like your 2 year probationary green card and then you move on to your 10 year one. And while you're waiting for your 10 year one, they give you like a year extension letter. And that letter ran out because of how long it took them. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. But fingers crossed, Europe for you guys next year. Maybe one day I can get to like, we can have this a conversation in real life and I can get to see you. And I want to know like who or what bands or which person like inspired you the most to become a musician, to sing and to start singing?
I mean, my mother would tell you that I just started singing when I came out of the womb.
Yeah.
We have a TV show here called Rage, or I don't think it's still on anymore, but it was like, music hits kind of MTV thing.
Hmm.
And my mom would breastfeed me when I was an infant, to Rage on in the background because for whatever reason, having heavy metal and stuff on was so soothing to me. So I think music was inherent. My mother is an extraordinary singer. My father was a great drummer and guitarist. So whether I wanted music in my life or not, it was just sort of it just happened organically.
Hmm.
But my biggest influences are kind of eclectic. I As I said earlier, I sort of grew up in the grunge era. So the sort of Kurt Cobains and the Lane
Hmm.
Staleys and the Chris Cornells. I just love the fact that there were these big, powerful voices. And they sang from the heart and they sang about things that, and Eddie Vedder was another one. They sang from the heart and the music had this sort of real anthemic quality to it. But also, I sang up singing a lot of Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston. My mom was huge into Nora Jones, I think was another one. And so, I never had like a specific genre, I suppose, that I gravitated toward, but I actually went straight out of high school to do a degree in music. Like all good musicians, I dropped out of it before graduating. But at the time I was majoring in jazz vocals and was also doing like studying opera at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, I suppose my influences as a young adult studying music, despite the fact that I was studying jazz and opera, was actually people like Matt Bellamy from Muse
Yeah.
and uh, um, Ian Kenny from Carnival, and I always forget Clint's last name from the Butterfly Effect, but they were big, strong voices over heavy music. And I loved that because even though I listened to a lot of heavy metal where the vocals were sort of extreme vocals, I couldn't sing along to that.
Right.
I couldn't sing along to it. I only started learning how to scream just over a year ago. So like
Mm-hmm.
I was way too scared to even try. Um, and so, it was artists, I think, in the heavy music space who were daring to do extraordinary clean vocals, that allowed me the freedom, I suppose, to break away from singing more pop music or singing jazz music or singing opera and actually start using it in a heavy music space. But like my personal biggest influences sonically would probably be people like Steven Wilson. I posted about it the other day. Like Fear of a Blank Planet came out, in 2007, and like it molded my um sense of what was possible with heavy
Mm-hmm.
music. And then of course discovering since then just such an extraordinary array of music. But like this is even one of my favorite songs in the whole world is from the musical Hair. Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember? Yeah. And it had that let the sunshine, let the sun, like to me that was just this extraordinarily powerful piece of music. And so like I think I don't have a single specific influence, but I would have to say the biggest influence of them all would be Maynard James Keenan from Tool. Um, when I discovered Tool when I was like 14 years old, I like my first dog, bless him, he's passed away, but my first dog was called Maynard.
Mm-hmm.
I have Lateralis's lyrics fully tattooed on one of my arms. I was like an obsessed Tool fan. Which is which I'm not embarrassed about. I don't think Maynard James Keenan would think it's very cool, but he was a big influence as well because again, he is this like extraordinarily skilled male vocalist who I suspect I've never actually looked into it, but I suspect was probably trained in sort of jazz contemporary vocals um, in the metal space, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like so much is possible. But now listening to just because of friends that I've met here, I've started listening to like deathcore and things like that. Like I never listened to that stuff before. Um, and also going because I try to go to as many local shows as I can. So that's also exposed me to a lot of genres that I'd previously never seen. And I've grown to really enjoy brutal vocal styles as well. And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
decided, yeah, just over a year ago, I would learn to do it. You know, it's vocals are so much fun because there's just so much potential in them, and I want to be able to sort of die knowing that I at least had to go at as much as I could within the sort of you know uh, limitations of what I can do,
Mm-hmm.
but sort of how to go at using my instrument as dynamically as I possibly can, in the same way a guitarist does, in the same way a bassist does, a pianist does. Like vocals is an instrument, and I think people forget that because singers are probably not other musicians, but singers are often a face or a personality, or they're not sitting there holding an instrument, but it is a real, very, very real instrument that takes an enormous amount of practice and I suppose finessing of it as a craft, just like any other instrument. I play multiple instruments, so it just so happens that I only sing in Primrose Path. But it's hard to say who specifically influenced what. Like I said, I would go from singing, Aretha Franklin stuff with my mom to singing like George Thorogood with my dad,
Hmm.
Um, but it was having that eclectic exposure to music and vocals that has meant that um a lot of the feedback we get from our music is that I just do a lot of different things. It's just from singing a lot of different things, and having fun with it as an instrument, just like any other person would with their instrument. Some shit works, some shit doesn't.
Right.
Because like I'll do stuff in the jam room and be like, never gonna do that again. Thank goodness no one else saw that but my band.
Right.
um and like, but other times, getting to sort of bend the rules as well, like as someone who's classically trained in vocals, to learn how to add vocal fry to my voice was like the biggest no-no.
No, right.
And but I was like, but then you hear singers like Daniel Tompkins, who is just like absolutely freaking extraordinary. I hope to God one day I get to just tell. I'm sure Daniel Tompkins is so sick of people saying it, but I just would love to be able to tell him like what an incredible inspiration he was to the sort of bravery that I had to find within myself to start doing, more extreme vocal styles, because um, artists like him really showed to me that if you look after yourself and you implement proper health practices and you do things technically correctly, you can actually be pretty unstoppable with what you can do with your voice. And he is a real like master of that craft. So I don't know, I'll probably try to stalk Tesseract or something while they're here in May and be like, oh, I'll be that crazy fangirl who's
Yeah.
like, Daniel, I've got to tell you something.
No, that's what I love about your band is that whenever you guys bring something new out, I don't know what to expect from one, the musicality side of it, but also from you as a vocalist, because you do have such range and diversity, and it's just so fun listening to it, and it's so fun. It's like going on a musical adventure in a way, and it's I just love it. It's just there's just something about it, and I look forward to every single release you guys do and
Oh,
bring out. And of course, I know you just announced that you're going to be starting your very own Twitch channel soon.
yes, yes. And it's really dorky. I suppose to start um, I've had a lot of people approach me over the last few months in particular about, I suppose, how I approach, because live, I do all of those vocals live. Like there's no, um, all of the vocals tracked in a recording studio, I'm tracking in a couple of hours. I mean, we only had 1 hour to do all of the vocals in Viscera. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think people are often really shocked that a full Primrose set will go from a lot of screamed vocals to operatic to jazz to belting to, and they're sort of wondering, well, what's the process you do that? And so I realized that it's kind of like a unique skill that I have to be able to do like so many different styles. And I thought it might be fun, like a fun way to engage with people, to say, hey, like send me some stuff that you like let's I want to be able to sing it for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
and I want to see if I can sing it. The challenge appeals to me. I'm sure there's going to be lots of stuff I can't. Like if they start sending me stuff by like Lorna Shore, my goodness, like it's going to be
Right.
fun to laugh at, but it's not going to come out well. um but I thought it would be not just like educational, but just an opportunity to share with people my craft on a more personal level. Because I think one of the things about Primrose Path that we try to maintain is that we are a band. We're not like, I mean, the guys are really shit ass at doing social media stuff, um, but it's not like the Lindsay show. Like we, as a band, we are a unit and
Mm-hmm.
we make room for each other. Like there's never, at least how we perceive ourselves, there's no like star of the show. Like I see all of them as extraordinarily um talented musicians, and everyone has like, a very specific thing that they contribute. but you know, everyone always focuses on vocals.
Yeah.
And so what happens in our live shows is, you know, people get to see us as a band, and that's what we wanted. We didn't want to be another Evanescence where the only people anyone cares about is Amy Lee, you know. We kind of wanted to be a more traditional band outfit, but that does often mean that I'm approached afterwards and I'm just like, whoa, like how did you do all of that in one set? So I thought this might be a way to just have a more personal role with the people that do follow us. And you know, I don't really know what I'm doing. um Fortunately, I've got help setting up Twitch stuff soon and all kinds of stuff. But you know, I thought it might just be fun to show people how in like a single song I'm sort of able to swap between things and the techniques that I'm using, and the sort of practices that I implement to aid me in being able to do that. Like, firstly, I don't drink alcohol. Like, I'm a complete teetotaler.
Hmm.
You know, it's I can't see how it could possibly benefit you singing ever. um, you know, I have ADHD, for example, but I don't take which is why I interrupt you all the time. So I'm really sorry. Um, I don't take the medication because it affects, well, it dehydrates you, and so it affects your vocal cords. And so
Hmm.
I've also had to come up with a whole heap of coping mechanisms to manage that, you know, for my profession, because obviously I have a day job.
Hmm.
But also, you know, writing music can be very tedious at times as well, especially when you're getting into the real nitty gritty of stuff, and um, formulating how I concentrate on those things. And I really wanted to give people like a bit of a glimpse into the life as an artist, like not just like, oh, here's me singing covers, but like analytically go through it, and the creative process, and hopefully actually share it with people, so like they can contribute their ideas, and we can test it and adopt it and see if it works, and it may or may
Hmm.
not. But you know, I just thought that would be fun. And I know that when I was starting out singing, I didn't have anyone show me those things, you know, like, and that is one of the advantages in the world we live in now, is that people can jump on YouTube and they can get extraordinary information. You know, YouTube didn't exist when I was a teenager, so I mean,
Same.
it might have, but yeah, it might have, but
Yeah.
it wasn't common. You know, like
Yeah.
your super rich friend probably had good enough internet for YouTube, but
Right.
you know, I grew up in the country, so I was lucky if we got like commercial TV. Um, but you know, I would like to be able to give young persons, in particular young women who want to sing heavy music, um, some tips, I suppose, in not just the singing, but the craft, the performance aspect of it. And as I said to you, there's still aspects of that that I'm trying to learn. You know, like microphone dynamics in a studio is really different to microphone dynamics live.
Hmm.
And so I want to be able to help people in a way that I've learned through making lots of mistakes. But you know, and also like I'm plus size and I throw myself around on a stage like a freaking basketball. You know, I want young women to feel like they can be a good artist and a you know, and a respected human being without having to curb certain
Hmm.
you know, societal norms and things like that. Like, I'm plus size, I'm not unhealthy. I'm an insane gym junkie. I just have terrible eating habits.
Same.
Very good at doing
Same.
it's like, God damn, I'm so inspired. I go to the gym all the time. I'm like, I do a lot of weightlifting, but I also really freaking like cheese. So it's like,
Right?
man, I just can't.
Yeah.
But I want people to feel like they also have a cool, fun, safe space where we can learn together. And I don't know if it's going to be a success or not, honestly, Tori. It could be a total flop, but you know, in the interim, I really want my fan base that is growing to feel like I'm listening to them and that they're a part of our journey.
Yeah.
Because we actually don't take any of that for granted. You
Right.
know, like support from people like yourself and old school nerd, and there's a fellow here in Victoria, Fourth Watch. Like, I can't tell you what it feels like to see one of your reactions. Like, I have wept. um and it's like such an overwhelming thing. And like, I remember when I first reached out to you, because I'd been watching your content for some time, and I'm a terrible online lurker. Like, I never even like sign into YouTube.
Yeah,
um
me too.
It's like, this sounds creepy when I say this, but and I just remember seeing a human being who was so earnest in their experience of music. It wasn't just listening to music, it was they were in that moment, in that sort of song. And I remember when, yeah, you did that, your reaction to Irrelevance. I was just like freaking bawling my eyes out. Like, oh my God, this is so incredible. And I suppose we do want to show how much we value that. And so I thought, not just by people who review our stuff though, but we have people, just that person who likes one of our photos. Like,
Hmm.
we just wanted them to feel seen, because I think the internet has created great, whilst everyone has a face and a profile picture, it's kind of created great anonymity. And we sort of wanted to show people that, well, here's a little glimpse into us behind the scenes. And we want to share that with you so that you can be a part of that journey with us. And the guys, even though it's going to be my Twitch stream, are very much going to be a part of it. They're also planning some Discord gaming thing. I've never played a computer game in my life, so um,
I'm a huge gamer, so
oh, I feel really bad. I'm like not tech at all. I think law, being such a archaic profession, was perfect for me, because it's like
yeah.
we only recently introduced digital filing of paperwork. So I was like, computers, how do you use these?
Hmm.
So I think they're creating some gaming thing on the cards as well. I did say that I would, for a laugh, at least once attempt to join in. It's going to be bad. It's going to be so bad. I don't know what I'm doing, but we are trying to, at the moment, look at how we do more outwardly focused stuff. Um, it's just sort of coordinating that when we all work full time. We've all got,
Right.
I have three huskies. I don't have children, but I have three huskies and a husband.
Hmm.
So it's just trying to make all of that work in a way that we can be consistent, so that like people know on this time at this night of the week, like, this is what we get to do with Primrose. So we are trying to create that space. I suspect it'll take us, we've got to get this single done in May, so I suspect it'll probably be sort of June, July, by the time we've sort of got a proper schedule up and running.
Hmm.
And but I will do my first Twitch stream at the end of May. And it's the dumbest idea, because it was my birthday today. I was like, I got given all these gifts, and I still haven't opened them. Except for the ones like from my mom and my husband and
Hmm.
stuff. Um, and I thought it would be fun to do an unboxing. And my sister is extremely untrustworthy, so I figure, if nothing else, just a 30-second clip of opening whatever horror she has sent me will probably be entertaining for people. So, but I will put a PO box up this weekend. I just had to get through some stuff in court this week before I could sort out those things. And then, yeah, if anyone feels like sending me something stupid, as I said on my video, I don't want it to be expensive or gratuitous or anything like that. I just thought, make it silly. And then we're actually sending something back to everyone as well. So we've been putting together and creating some really fun, cute little Primrose things. Like, for example, I've done a bunch of handwritten lyrics and, really novel items, so that if we one day miraculously take off, some people will have some very special, intimate items from us. So again, with the view of gratitude and showing people that, you know, we do want to give back. It's not just the us show. Like we really value the support we get.
Yeah, Twitch is a great way to go about building a community that way. That's how I found it. I usually stream twice a week myself, like Monday and Fridays, and it's just a nice, even if I just do it for a couple of hours, it's just nice to see those regular names and those people coming in and supporting you, and it's a good way to also gauge what the fan base wants from you as well, and what you can give back. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'll leave, of course, all of the links and everything down below in the description for people to find you. I'm not going to keep you much longer. I know we've been talking for quite a while now, but I just wanted to know if you had any last words for people watching this of just thanks or anything like that.
I mean, yes, thank you. Thank everyone. I think my final words sound so dramatic. I would just like to say that it without any fabrication or like I don't know, there's nothing contrived about what I'm about to say, but we really, really, really value the support. And it, like I said, because we are a bit of a family, and me and the guys, we hang out all the time, and Brent and I are literally family. We spend so much time like replying to messages and chatting to people and getting to know people, and it has added so much value to our lives, and I am so grateful for that, because, you know, we are sort of a bunch of oddballs, and you guys have given us a space where we feel so accepted, and we absolutely adore it. So we are not just grateful, we are better people because of the people that we've met on this journey. And you know, I can only hope that we live up to a lot of the expectations, but also that we keep being able to give to you guys something that hopefully betters your lives as well, because the value added to ours is well, invaluable. I couldn't put a measurement on it, but it has certainly been life-changing for us. And so, yeah, thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts. I know the guys aren't here right now, but they, like I said, they're shit asses with social media. So, but yeah, it's meant a lot to us, very, very, very earnestly. So thank you.
And thank you so much, Lindsay, for taking the time out. And again, I know it's like super late over there. It's past like 1 a.m. for you, so I'm gonna yeah, I'm gonna let you get going, because I know you've had a busy day as well with work and doing everything for the band. But guys, I will leave Primrose's Paths and Lindsay's information down below in the description, so you can go ahead and find them. Please support them. They are an incredible, incredible band. They have a really unique sound, and you just have to listen to it and trust me on this. But yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to become a Taurian. Speaking of becoming a Taurian, all my social media links and my Discord link are down in the description. We'd absolutely love to have you come hang out in the Discord community, and I will see you guys in the next video. Rock on.